To deep learning. My name is Eugenio Culurcello. This is our new course. First of all, let me tell you about the goals of deep learning. Deep learning teaches machine how to learn about the world, how to operate in the world, how to increase our collective benefit. The goal of deep learning is really the same goal as machine learning, which is to help teach machine how to learn concept, ideas, and things in our world. With the goal of introducing potentially, for example, visual capabilities in computers, appliances, and mobile applications. Not just visual, but also auditory, sensory, and all sort of ability of perception in the real world. What is deep learning today? Well, I'm afraid today nobody can tell you what deep learning is. You will have to see it for yourself through this presentation. I'm hoping to give you an idea of all the potential application and capabilities that you can learn by following this course. I'll have to start with data. Deep learning and machine learning in general learn from a lot of digital data. This revolution has come to us in the last 10-15 years because of the ability of carrying with you recording devices such as like your cell phone or other devices. And this allows us to have an enormous amount of data. For example, here I'm showing an image data set, which was like maybe one of the very first data set used in deep learning. The ImageNet dataset that had a collection of 1,000 objects with lots of pictures for each object. And this is what really allowed the machines to learn. A lot of examples of data. A couple of examples where you have an input and the equivalent output. For example, you might have a picture of a dog and the name dog or the category dog. This is really what started the entire deep learning revolution, data. And data for us is and will always be king. But we will talk about it more in the course. Following deep learning today is able to understand your world. So if you have a picture of something, like your room, for example, it will be able to tell you and annotate every single object, reconstruct and figure out their position. So it's not just categorizing an image like an image of a dog and giving the label dog, but now we can do much more. We can label every object in a scene. We can even recreate the 3D scene, and we can even create the 3D objects. So there's a lot of advancement that was just possible really in the last 10 years. And deep learning is extremely famous also in self-driving car, where it allowed cars to recognize the road, the pedestrian, obstacles, and all the traffic signs and so forth. And so whatever self-driving car that you have today likely will contain a significant amount of deep learning algorithms. The fun things are also that the deep learning became really good at creating data, especially images. And here I'm showing you an example of this, where in this website, for example, you can see and find faces of people that don't exist. So all of these are being created and generated by machine learning and deep learning algorithm after watching and looking at the thousands and thousands of images of faces. This in the last few years, just in the last couple of years, in 2020 or so, spurred a revolution because a recent model of language, natural language processing, paired with the ability, the fact that we have enormous data set of images and captions, allows us to create now a new neural network that can actually create images. So you can give him an input, like for example, an illustration of a baby daikon radish in a tutu walking a dog, and he will actually generate an image for you. He will draw it in whatever style you want. You can have, for example, an armchair in the shape of an avocado, and it will generate it for you. So this is quite amazing capabilities. The fun thing is that you can also create really incredible images, very, very detailed, and also something that may come from your nightmares, like these pictures here that have been generated with Stable Diffusion. And of course, it's not always perfect because you relied on your images as a data set. In this example here, the user asked for a salmon swimming in the river, and what you get is actually cooked salmon. So it's really funny. But it's not perfect because deep learning or this algorithm, sometimes they don't understand language or have a common sense like we do. And so they'll create some strange things sometimes. And that's why it's also important to follow the trend of ethics in AI and machine learning, which we will talk about. It's also extremely interesting that today you can even make a video, like in this tool from Meta, for example. So not only you can generate images, but you can create entire clips, video clips today. One of the biggest revolutions of the last 3 years or so has been in natural language processing, and in particular a family of transformer algorithm called the GPT. You'll hear a lot about this. And the ability, these were basically trained on massive data set of text and have the ability to complete a text. So for example, here you can even have a conversation with one of them, and it will talk and create sentences that pretty much make sense. What is lacking is memory and of what happened of the conversation before. And we will also talk about this more later. We were also able today to also understand the speech recognition, parsing speech and transcribing it into text with this model from OpenAI called Whisper. That is really it is an incredible resource, and we'll show you some examples, or you can visit the website in these pages. Another interesting application of deep learning that came just in the last few years is Copilot, so the ability of helping you to write code in a way that it basically, as you write code, this tool will help you to autocomplete the code itself based on millions and millions of code examples from GitHub. The other interesting application of deep learning really is robotics, because one day we hope to be able to have robots that save us from a lot of the tedious tasks. And here you see, for example, a group of robots that are learning together to operate a task. So for example, pick up objects. And because this deep learning algorithm, they start from scratch, they'll have to basically try to train this even to pick up an object, for example. And you'll need a lot of instances of a robot because of all the possible number of objects and collections. Because one day, hopefully, we'll be able to have a robot like this in our home. It will be the next model of autonomous kitchen, which will be very useful because it'll take all your ingredients and figure out how to cook them based maybe on a YouTube video that you give them as a pointer. So wouldn't this be great? Unfortunately, today we're not quite there yet. We have most of our algorithms in robotics have problems, and I'll show you just a couple of examples here. And that's because a lot of the robotic brains that we have is still not very general. This is also quite funny, so I'm gonna show you even this one video. These are just a funny video, okay? And I'm not trying to make fun of all the great work that has been happening and will continue to happen in robotics. But I think it's important to know where we stand today. Also, speaking of robotics, deep learning will also be used in trying to learn, has been used in learning how to play video game from scratch. And instead of just playing video games, this Gato from DeepMind, this new algorithm is trained of hundreds of new tasks, so that he can learn them all together. Deep learning has also been able to generate 3D models, like you see, for example, this model from NVIDIA. So from a single image of an object, you can actually recreate an entire 3D model that then you can import in your favorite video game. Of course, deep learning has been a revolution also in the medical field, helping physicians to diagnose diseases automatically from medical images, which will be also part of this course. And in terms of scientific revolution, neural network has also helped in a problem of protein folding. And in particular, look at this DeepMind example from AlphaFold, which is an algorithm that is able to recreate and figure out how a protein actually folded, one of the big problem in biology. So now it's your turn. What is it going to be for you? What do you want it to be? This deep learning course will teach you all the tools so that you can be the next great inventor and keep populating this presentation with your great success. So for us, really the goal here is to learn, trying to enjoy and be creative.